Mohammed Yunus-led interim government of the crisis-hit Bangladesh has officially denounced the public holiday on 15th of August, which marks the assassination of the country's founding father and the deposed Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina's father, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. The signs of Bangladesh fast turning into the new East Pakistan are glaring and obvious. The violent mobs let loose by jamaat islami, destroying the liberation memorials, rioters pissing on the statues of Mujibur Rahman, the founding father of Bangladesh, repeated military coups, assassinations and the genocide of the minorities. Doesn't it all sound familiar? It's the way Pakistan has operated all along. What Pakistan could not achieve in 1971, that was control of Bangladesh and turning into East Pakistan. It is doing it now, turning Bangladesh into East Pakistan as we speak. It will have irrevocable repercussions. Let's start this conversation. Joining me on the telecast is Sumit Peer. Sumit, what is happening in front of our eyes is all too obvious. We know there is a regime change. There is going to be a dictatorial, radicalized policy that is going to be followed. There are going to be efforts to make Bangladesh into an Islamicized state. There are series of systematic Hindu genocide that takes place since the time 1971, the liberation up until now. And we seem to be just mute spectators. And is there anything in our power and control to do something about it? But because it seems like the international bodies, the United Nations, powerful countries like US and United Kingdom and France are least bothered, or it seems to be they are least bothered into actually looking at what a crisis state Bangladesh has become. And in fact, it is soon going to be turned into a second Pakistan, which is going to be a terror hub, a terror factory of the world.
Megha ji, thank you for having me on your show. Well, you are right. The situation in Bangladesh, as we have been talking, we have been predicting, is getting from bad to worse. Because look, Mohammed Yunus is not in control. He never will be in control. He cannot be in control. Today, it's a free run for all. Anybody who controls mobs is having his own way. And these mobsters who have got the power, they are not going to let this power go in whatever way you talk about it. The challenge is that what can we do and what are our things? Look, we have an imminent problem which is on our borders. We have a lot of people who are flocking to our borders. We have a crisis which is brewing. We have a very explicit Hindu genocide which is happening there. We have Hindu properties, Hindu temples, Hindu livelihoods. Everything is targeted which is around Hindu. Though that Hindu is as Bengali as a Bangladeshi as a Bangladeshi Muslim. But here religion seems to be the main differentiator. Now if you look at the Liberation Memorial tarnished, if you look at Sheikh Mujibur Rahman statues done with, Mahatma Gandhi statues tarnished, Indira Gandhi Center burned to ashes. So anything to do with India and Hindu is what seems to be the target of these jihadis and Wahhabis. Now those 1,200 people which are let out of the jails, which by SF says are coming to the Indian border. Now those radicals which are being let out of the jails, now lifting over the ban from Jamaat Islami, not letting Khalida Zia's sons come into Bangladesh. When you add up all these things, there is a lot of things which are brewing trouble for us. What we can do, look, India, whatever happened in Bangladesh is against the interest of India. That is to destabilize India, that is to destabilize our Northeast, and West Bengal is the immediate target. So what we can do, if whichever foreign force, I mean, it's China, it's United States of America, and it's ISI involved, we all know. So what we can do right now is we have to do whatever it takes, what is in our interest. Which even means if we have to create a conclave for Hindus, because if we let this Hindu genocide happen under our watchful eyes and with our power, then the world will question us one day. In the 1971, when a Muslim genocide was happening, India intervened. And 2024, a Hindu genocide is happening. Why India is choosing not to intervene? Why India is closing the eyes? Because if you are not going to talk for Hindus, that is us, we are not going to talk for Hindus. Don't expect Israel or a United States of America or anybody to talk for Hindus. Why should they talk for Hindus at all? They will never talk for Hindus because at the end of the day, we are the biggest Hindu country. And if we are silent over it, we are saying, wait and watch, dekhenge kya hoga, then, these jihadis and Islamists are doing whatever they are doing. Look, today Bangladesh is East Pakistan. It's a matter of time. It will go into Afghanistan because now there'll be new warlords. There'll be small fiefdoms who will start controlling the power. It will be like Afghanistan, ye area, uska, wo area, isko. That is how eventually the things will turn up. Why should Americans and anybody bother? The problem is in our neighborhood. America does not share a border with Bangladesh, but we do. America doesn't have a vulnerability of chicken neck, but we do. We have. They don't have their northeast vulnerable, but we have. So the only way is to cut a conclave for Hindus on Bangladeshi land, give it protection, let our Hindu brothers settle there, so that when Bangladesh, even if you have to break Bangladesh into 1, 2 or 3 parts, let it be whatever it is. Because this is an orchestrated move against the interest of India, and India will do whatever it needs to salvage its interest.
Okay, but is India doing enough is the question. Does it suffice for the Prime Minister to appeal to Mohammed Yunus to ensure that the Hindu lives are saved, their property is not destroyed, the temples are not brought down? Ambassador Suresh Goyal, what kind of diplomacy is going to allow for India to walk the tightrope and ensure Hindu lives are saved, at the same time continue to build relations, which becomes difficult in the backdrop of what has happened in the last 2 months? Islamicization of Bangladesh is on the anvil right now in a neighborhood that is unstable, whether we talk about Maldives, whether we talk about Sri Lanka, Pakistan, Nepal, which continues to dilly-dally and show its support now to China. How can we be trustful of Bangladesh, which just a few months ago was perhaps the only sole ally, if one may call it, in the subcontinent of India?
Megha, this is a very difficult situation that we have in our neighborhood at the moment. But I'm very uncomfortable when we begin to look at the whole situation in terms of Hindu versus Islam, Hindu versus Muslim populations, etc., etc. Now, I do agree that there is a lot of violence against Hindus in Bangladesh. But why Hindus in Bangladesh? And the fact is that I have seen Bangladesh. I've been there several times. I know what actually happens in the minds of the people there. And it is not just Islam. It's not Hinduism. It is the distinct thing about Bangladesh is that it is Bengali culture. It's distinctly Bengali culture, and I was somewhere and we were talking about this, and yesterday I was at a book discussion function. When we begin to talk about nations in terms of religions, we are creating at the same time the seeds, we are sowing the seeds for their fragmentation. You cannot have a nation only on the basis of religion. There are countries where actually the United Nations also passed the resolutions about identifying them with certain religion, but they were all abrogated. You talk about any nation, really speaking, there is only one country in the world which is written Hindu nation, Hindu culture, and that is Nepal, nowhere else. Therefore, first of all, I think we need to understand why the violence is taking place against Hindu minorities in Bangladesh. And that is happening because Hindu, capitals, Hindu, is being conflated with Indianism now. Like my distinguished panelist said earlier, India is the largest Hindu nation. I'm sorry, India has the largest population of Hindus. But does that mean that India is the largest Hindu nation? I think we need to be careful about how we look at India. In India, if you begin to look at it as a Hindu nation, then there will be Muslim nation within India. Are we going to do that? I think we need to understand that religion is important to people, but religion is not the basis for nationalism. And that is where the problem is, that violence against Hindus is taking place because the Hindus are being seen as Indians, and therefore this violence in Bangladesh is a violence against the Indians. It is a resistance to Indians. is basically because Sheikh Hasina was seen, supported by India, and therefore everything that supported Sheikh Hasina must be removed.
Okay.
Or the target.
Okay. That's a fair point that you make.
Yeah, just once again. And therefore, I think what we need to do is, Prime Minister said already, Mohammed Yunus said already, and I think we need to work on the basis that the government of Bangladesh will work to overcome, to defeat violence against the Hindu minorities or any other minorities in Bangladesh.
Okay,
Megha.
let's have a word from Patikrit Pain as well. Patikrit, keeping in mind, since the liberation of Bangladesh, the population of Hindus in the country has dwindled systematically, that at this point of time, the Hindu population is left at about 7 to 8%. But there's another problem over here, and as we make comparisons from the 1971 war, where Pakistan was defeated single-handedly by India, therefore bringing about a liberation, there was a separate state of Bangladesh that was created. And here you have, when you have Mohammed Yunus and other political leaders in Bangladesh calling it a quote-unquote second liberation. And it is ironical because the first liberation that happened of Bangladesh was when Sheikh Mujibur ensured, with the support he got from India, from Russia, that it is a nation, a democracy that will prevail for the betterment of the people, to save the people of Bangladesh from the clutches of the dictatorial Pakistan. And here you have, over the span of the existence of the country, a number of military coups, assassinations, and then you have a quote-unquote, if I may call it, Islamicization of Bangladesh, which is on the anvil, which I mentioned in the past as well. Aren't the Bangladeshis, the political class, playing into the hands of Pakistan? Is it a deliberate move, or they're unconsciously, subconsciously doing it? And what are the repercussions that India will have to face, where you have an unstable border on the west that has continued to be so since the partition in 1947, and on the other side, which is the eastern border, which was comparatively calmer. There was an association with Bangladesh, which we were trustful of Sheikh Hasina. And there you have now an unstable government, a military rule, and whether the question arises of the increased trust that we can now have with, suppose, a BNP that comes to power, where Khalida Zia comes to power.
Okay, Megha, it's too long a question. I hope I will be able to get it right. First of all, my surname is Pine, not Pain. Frankly, let me tell you a few things. There was a book which came out in 2012. The book name is A Quiet Case of Ethnic Cleansing, the Murder of Bangladesh's Hindus. It was written by Dr. Richard L. Benkin. It was not written by an Indian. And it talks about the systematic ethnic cleansing and targeted killing of Bangladeshi Hindus that has continued for a long time. So with all due respect, let's not whitewash that oh, nothing is happening, it's just a political thing. Anybody, whoever wins election, and this is something I'm saying, there's a person called Asad Noor. He is a Bangladeshi in exile. He says that whoever wins election in Bangladesh, or whoever has a sense of euphoria, would invariably go and target Hindu temples. And the presumption that Hindus are associated with Indians or India, I think that is the narrative the radicals have always portrayed. Because I know a lot of Bangladeshi Hindus who are as Bangladeshi as the rest are. You know, there are some of the most prominent names in Bangladeshi television are Hindu names, Chanchal Chaudhary, Brindaban Das. They're extremely popular. So to say that they are being targeted, oh, because they are like Hindus, that is, with all due respect, not the truth. Secondly, it is not that Bangladeshi Hindus are being targeted only now. Even during Awami League regime, they were targeted. So it was a whitewash that was happening that time also. Asad Noor talks about an incident where a gang rape happened a couple of years back in Bangladesh, where the mother was pleading with the rapist that please Please come one by one. My daughter is too young. Can you imagine the helplessness? And the West have completely whitewashed it. If you ask about India, we have also done the same thing. We haven't talked about the Bangladeshi Hindus ever. 1971 war happened. India played a role, whatever it is. It was a positive role. It gave independence to Bangladesh. No disrespect to the role played by Mukti Bahini. But after that, what happened? We forgot to control the narrative. The narrative in Bangladesh continued to be deeply polarized. One side, which is relatively more secular, who believe in keeping the Bengali identity intact, and the other side is extremely opposite of that. So whoever comes to power tries to completely dismantle the opposite side. And let me tell you, whatever is happening right now, Hifazat-e-Islam, there's an organization, one of their chief advisors is part of the government now. And the issue is this: I think Mohammed Yunus is just a face. I don't think he's in control. A country where the police is totally dysfunctional right now, I think it's only a matter of 1.5 years or 2 years, they will ask for another freedom movement. But the problem is the chaos inside Bangladesh is not good news for India. Bangladesh, for a long time, even though a section of them are very good, another section have always created problems in Northeast. So I suspect what is happening right now will have a debilitating, devastating impact on Northeast India, potentially inside West Bengal as well.
Okay.
And let me also add this. A lot of people may not know. Let's not presume that it's only the Jamaat elements who believe in Greater Bangladesh. Even in the intellectual discourse of Bangladesh among the elite, they believe that Bangladesh is incomplete till the time West Bengal, Assam, Tripura is made part of it. There are famous songs over there on this. And those songs were created even during this movement. So the issue is this: are we doing enough? I don't know whether India is doing enough or not, or whether India can create an enclave for Bangladeshi Hindus. I don't think it's possible.
Okay.
What we should do is this: we need, number one, a national border policy. We don't have it. We need as much stringent border policy on the eastern side as we have on the western side. The whole concept of open border, fluid border is rubbish. It doesn't work. Secondly, we have a problem in Chicken Neck. Let's not whitewash it. And I am a strong supporter of this government, the government of India, but I think somewhere the diplomacy was not up to the mark in terms of anticipating what was happening. And even if they could have anticipated that something was not right, I think the right kind of advice should have been given to Sheikh Hasina government not to use firepower against the students, because it always amplifies into something devastatingly negative. Yes, we should strive for good relation with the present regime. We should help them because it is India's interest to have a prosperous Bangladesh. But how would you have prosperity when you destroy your own properties, your own business entities, just because it belongs to a Hindu or it belongs to somebody from Awami League? We have a bad situation, critical situation, and we need to be more resilient internally. What we can do about Bangladesh, I don't know, frankly. But internally, we have a lot of loopholes, and those are being capitalized for demographic shift, for a lot of other things which are a real problem. I do not think that Mohammed Yunus is entirely in control. His intention might be good.
Fair enough. Okay. Shikha Mukherjee, let's hear it from you as well. It is not just the Hindus in Bangladesh who have been massacred, who have been killed, their properties have been destroyed. It is also the Christian minorities who have been meted out with the same, the same atrocities, the same kind of treatment that has been meted out to them. But bringing the discussion back, it is not just about the Hindu genocide. Yes, it is a byproduct of it. But the more sinister threat that lies here is the question about whether this is an East Pakistan in the making.
Megha, I'm very uncomfortable with the use of a lot of things. One is the word genocide. I think we need to be very, very careful when you're using a word like genocide. Genocide is what is happening in Gaza. genocide is what happened in 1971. Genocide has not yet started in Bangladesh.
But are we waiting for the genocide to happen, as in your words?
I think that is about
That's a good
the
question, Megha.
first
Very
kind
good.
of mindset that anyone can have, that you actually expect a genocide when you ought to actually encourage the thought that somehow or the other, Yunus, the army, and the political forces will get their act together. I am truly apprehensive that if this is the discourse in India, what will be the reaction in Bangladesh? Number one. Number two, I am extremely disturbed by the fact that over 300 people have died. And I don't think that the bulk of them were Hindus or the minorities. Also,
but do you feel, do you agree, Ms. Shikha, that there has been targeted killings and attacks on Hindus and Christians?
I am not.
And Christians?
Please, Megha, that is not the issue. Please listen with patience. If you want me to argue on the lines that you are dictating, then please leave me out. I'm happy to quit the program.
No, please go ahead and put your point across.
Yes. Thank you. And therefore, I would expect that not to be interrupted by this kind of frivolous intervention. Number one.
Okay, it's not frivolous to begin with. Let's also keep in mind the population of Hindus in Bangladesh at 1971 was considerably higher versus the population that the Hindus in Bangladesh have at 8%. But my question again, Shikha Mukherjee, is not that. My question is Bangladesh turning into an East Pakistan?
For Lord's sake, what was East Pakistan and what was the basis of the liberation of Bangladesh and the Bangladesh movement? It was about ethnic and linguistic cultural identities.
And still, there you have it, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman's statue being desecrated.
I think
there are writers under the pretext of being students who are urinating on his statues and memorials.
We are talking two different languages here, Megha. And I think that in my best interest, it is better that I quit the program, because I cannot understand how anyone can equate Pakistan with Bangladesh. Bangladesh was a liberation and a movement and a country formed on the basis of linguistic and cultural identities. For Lord's sake, the Language Day in the United Nations is celebrated because they're celebrating what happened in Bangladesh.
So, ma'am, my very direct question here, why on 15th of August,
you're not even aware
as
of
the
that
day
history.
of mourning,
It is so sad.
The day Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, the founder of the country of Bangladesh, who led the liberation movement, his day of commemoration has been scrapped by the government. What does this indicate, ma'am? What does this indicate? Are you saying that the current dispensation and the people of Bangladesh are at this point of time negating everything that was done by Sheikh Mujibur Rahman? And here I'm not talking about Hindu Muslims. I'm talking about the very shocking political stance that has been taken by the interim government, that you have completely wiped out all the efforts and the bloodshed that happened in the 1971 war and the efforts that were made by Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, and you have completely decided to put him into oblivion. Yes,
Megha, if I may add, and this is important. First and foremost, it is the Jamaat, the BNP, the army, which has put Mr. Yunus where he is today, including the students' protests, including the students' movement. There is no doubt whatsoever that the Jamaat and the BNP are pulling the strings behind the scenes, and quite overtly they are being consulted on everything. They're a part of the government. I think these are basics that we need to be very aware of. I am also suggesting to you to be very, very cautious, along with the Jamaat, there are even more fundamentalist elements who are part of today's establishment, political establishment, which is in Bangladesh. Call it the interim government, call it the groups around the interim government, call it the political parties around the interim government. Tomorrow, and this is my worst nightmare, is that tomorrow is the 15th of August. The Awami League has given a call that people should head to Bangabandhu's house, which is Sheikh Mujibur Rahman's house. And they will the Awami League will hit the streets. Tomorrow, we have to see what happens before we talk about a Hindu genocide, an attack on minorities, the destabilization, and East Pakistan. Let us see what Bangladesh does to itself tomorrow.
Okay. Ambassador,
Megha, can I come in?
I'll come to you. I'll come to you particularly, but Ambassador Goel, would you like to comment on the situation? As Shikha Mukherjee said, it's going to be a difficult time. The situation has to be controlled. It has to be made calm. Tomorrow being a very sensitive day for Bangladesh.
Megha, in a sense, I empathize with what Shikhaji said. Because basically the idea of Bangladesh was not Hindu culture or not Islamic culture. The idea of Bangladesh was a Bengali identity. And I've seen it in Bangladesh. The Durga Puja is done not just by Hindus. The Muslims who are actually part of Durga Puja, they go to pandals and they do everything. And therefore, to understand what is happening today in Bangladesh, we need to understand who is behind it. Jamaat-e-Islami has come back along with other militant organizations. BNP is back there. And therefore, when you talk about East Pakistan, it is going back to East Pakistan in a very covert manner, in an indirect manner, defeating what actually 1971 stood for. And therefore, the call, when Mohammed Yunus government said that all 50th August will not be a holiday, and the call for Awami League to go to Bangabandhu House, is actually basically the recalling what Sheikh Mujib stood for, what Bangladesh stood for, and therefore I think the confrontation between what Bangladeshi identity is and what now the people are trying to do who call themselves Bangladeshi but who have a different purpose in mind, that confrontation is now coming up. And the problem is that India, and you call it the failure of Indian diplomacy, yes, the failure of Indian diplomacy lies in the fact that we failed to understand the strength of the protests by the students when they were on the streets. Sheikh Hasina should have been advised at that time to deal with them in a more mature manner and talk to them rather than abusing them or dismissing the protest. When we did that, we created a situation which allowed the powers inimical to India and the powers who are actually angling for it already to basically get through the back door. And they are not misusing the opportunity. And let me say now, we are going to pay a heavy price for it in terms of stability at our borders.
Yeah.
Megha, let me tell you one thing.
Yes.
We are talking about lofty ideals, behind the 1971 liberation. No doubt, it was a great war the people of Bangladesh fought. But within 4-5 years, Mujibur Rahman was assassinated by the same country's army.
Correct.
So to say that the whole country was fighting in unison for the Bengali identity, it is just like whitewashing the genocide that has happened, or ethnic cleansing rather, that has happened for the last so many years, because of which the population has come down. Does it mean all the Bangladeshis are like that? No. I said significant portion of the Bangladeshi Muslims are extremely good, and they have a good relation with the Bangladeshi Hindus. The issue is this: who is having the upper hand? It is those who are secular, who believe in the Bengali identity, today are on the back foot, are on the defensive, and those who do not believe in that Bengali identity, who believe in something else, are coming in the forefront. Jamaat Islami of Bangladesh made it very clear that the students decided that Mohammed Yunus will be the chief advisor, de facto prime minister. there is no consensus. I am saying it on record. Bangladesh Nationalist Party is pushing for election as soon as possible. So let's not presume that there was a tremendous consensus within all of them to have Yunus over there. There are deep fissures and fault lines within, and you would see that fault lines coming up badly, which will not be good either for Bangladesh or for India.
Okay.
I will not be happy if Bangladesh is in a bad situation. But the only issue is this: in the midst of the chaos that is there, the radicals are going to have an upper hand. And that is where it is a problem for both the countries.
Okay.
And that is where I believe that today there is little we can do about Bangladesh. We need to develop our internal resilience. For a long time, we talked about a 2.5 frontal conflict. Today, we have a 3.5 frontal challenge, if not a conflict.
Okay. Sumit, coming to you, very little time, 30 seconds. Now, picking the lesser of the evils, and there you added your Awami League ruling the state, ruling Bangladesh, and by the twist of fate, there you have the extremists, the fundamentalists that have taken control. How long do you think this military coup and the fundamentalists that are reigning Bangladesh right now, their rule will last?
You see, Meghaji, look at any Islamic theocracy. There are no elections. Islamic theocracies don't believe in elections. They believe either you get to the chair by inheritance or you get by elimination. How many coups have happened in Bangladesh? Isn't it very identical to what is happening in Pakistan? How many times the Bangladeshi military has been in power? In which country do you say a prime minister, you have 45 minutes, otherwise we can't guarantee your life? In which country do you say the chief justice, you have 1 hour, otherwise I will lynch you out? In which country do you go to actor's house who's a Muslim and lynch his father to death because he did a picture on Bangabandhu? In which country do you get a chief secretary of Awami League, tie him to a tree and burn him alive? In which country do you say ISIS flags? In which country do you say Nalai Takbir, Allahu Akbar? In which country all Hindu temples across all districts are attacked? In which country, in a Nohokali, you pick up a Hindu girl in a broad daylight, put her in a van and go away with the girl? Which happens, it only happens in Pakistan. And in which country are the Hindus ask, ye 5 lakh rupiya lo aur nikal lo yahan se? Why are they targeting Indira Gandhi Memorial? Why are they vandalizing Mahatma Gandhi statue? Why have they burned out Sheikh Mujibur Rahman's house? Why have they vandalized his statues? Why have they gone and that Hindu musician, they have burned down his house completely?
Okay.
Why all the atrocities are against Hindus? Is Hindu not a Bangladeshi? If it is not an Islamic movement, what is the difference between a Hindu Bangladeshi and a Muslim Bangladeshi? It was good 71. Today, the Islamists and radicals have taken over the control and they don't believe in any harmony. They believe in elimination. I have video if you want, I can send you in your personal WhatsApp. There are jihadis saying, will not stop till the time we vandalize each and every idol.
You've made your point. Shikha Mukherjee, I will wrap this discussion with a response from you about very categorical over here, India-Bangladesh relations in the next few years. Do you see a roadmap that will allow for cooperation? And this military coup, this violence, these protests that have arisen, that are not to the benefit of India or for Bangladesh?
Well, if you're asking about India-Bangladesh relations, I would think that there are more actors playing a major role in Bangladesh's relationship with the rest of the world. There is the United States, there is China, there is Pakistan, for sure. And then there is the geostrategic importance of the Bay of Bengal, Chittagong, and Mangla ports. And everybody has their eye on that particular situation, on those particular locations. So therefore, India has to play a very, very nuanced and careful has to have a very nuanced and smart diplomatic strategy. It has its national interest. It also has an interest in having a neighborhood that is not volatile. It has enough volatility on its western borders. It does not need more volatility on its eastern borders.
Yes.
Remember the difference. The difference is that Bangladesh is actually surrounded on 3 sides by India. Yeah. That is the major difference between Bangladesh and Pakistan's borders. Yeah. Bangladesh border is almost 5,000 kilometers. That is so critical for India. It's not just the chicken's neck. I mean, I don't know where these people get their geography from, but all that border is of vital interest to us. So is the Bay of Bengal's geostrategic politics. And India has to watch out for it all.
No, absolutely.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.